I rented the farmhouse because I was broke and tired of hearing my own life through apartment walls. That's really the honest reason. You know, people like to dress up stories after the fact. You know, they'll say they were drawn to a place or the house had some kind of power, or they even felt something calling them through the trees. Well, me, I felt cold, poor, and sick of listening to my neighbor cough at 3 a.m. The ad in the paper said rural one-bedroom farmhouse. Partially furnished, oil heat, 6 months lease, and very cheap. Yeah, cheap was doing a lot of work there. So I drove out to see the place on Wednesday afternoon in January. The place sat about 15 minutes outside Mill Crossing. It was down a gravel road that narrowed between dead fields and black spruce. Snow was laid hard in the crust all along the ditches. The sky had that dirty winter color like wet ash. The house was plain, white siding and a red door. Small porch, just one bloody floor. I walked around the whole thing before I signed anything. No second level at all. No attic windows, no dormers. The roof was low and slope. Maybe 2 feet of crawl space at the highest point. Inside there was a kitchen, living room, bathroom, bedroom, and a small laundry room off the back. That was it. The landlord was an older dude named Graham Rusk. He wore a brown coat and never took his gloves off. Kinda weird. He had the dry, impatient look of someone who didn't want questions at all. "You live nearby?" I asked. "Close enough," he said. "Place been empty long?" "A while." "Well, what's a while?" He looked across the field instead of at me. "Few months." I should have pressed him further, but I didn't. The rent was almost half of what I'd been paying. I'd gone through a divorce, lost my workshop in a split, moved my whole friggin' life into plastic bins. All I wanted was quiet and space. I wanted to stop feeling like a man waiting outside of his own future. So I signed. Russ gave me the keys and told me 2 things. First, don't use the old well. Second, don't remove the square rug in the bedroom. I laughed a little. "Yeah, what's under it?" "Old floor." "What's wrong with the old floor?" He stared at me for a long time. "It's old." And that was all. He drove away before I finished unloading. First night was fine. Fucking cold, but fine. The dirty old oil furnace banged inside. The windows clicked in the wind and mice made little sounds behind the kitchen wall. You know, normal old house shit. I ate canned soup over the sink. Set up a mattress in the bedroom and slept harder than I had in months and months. It was on the second night that I heard it. A footstep. It was directly above me. I opened my eyes in the dark. At first I thought the sound had been part of a dream. And then it came again. Slow and heavy. A board had creaked somewhere. I lay there staring at the ceiling. The house had no upstairs at all. And then there was another step. And then another. Something walked from one side of the ceiling to the other, passing over the bedroom, crossing toward the kitchen. The sound was plain, like a person's weight on old floorboards. So I turned up the lamp a little. The footsteps stopped. I sat there with a blanket pulled up to my chest like a little kid. I was angry at myself for being scared. Houses made sounds and snow slides on roofs and branches scrape and animals can get in. So I grabbed a flashlight, went outside in boots and a coat, and I walked around the house. No tracks in the snow except mine. No ladder, broken siding, no open roof vent or anything. The roof sat low and white and simple under the moon. It was just one bloody floor. I went back in and didn't sleep again until almost morning. The next day I called Rusk immediately. He answered on the 5th ring. "There's an animal in the crawl space, I think." There was a brief pause. "What makes you say that?" "I heard it walking over the bedroom." "No crawl space big enough for walking." "I know what I heard." "Old houses talk, you know." "This one is walking." He breathed into the phone just for a second. "Did you move the rug?" "Well, no." "Well, then you're fine." And the line went dead. I looked for the bedroom doorway. The square rug sat beside the bed. It was ugly and brown with a faded floral pattern. Too big for the room and covered almost the whole floor from wall to wall. I actually hated it from the moment I moved in. Now I hated it even more. That night the footsteps came back. It was the same time too, around 2:10 in the morning. Step, step, step. They moved slower this time. The furniture dragged across the ceiling. It was a heavy scrape from above the living room to above the bedroom. It went on for nearly a minute. Wood grinding against wood, almost like something being pulled into place. I stood in the hallway with my flashlight pointed at the ceiling, whispering every curse I fucking knew. The dragging then stopped directly over me. Then came a soft thump, like someone had sat down in a chair. I waited. A woman started crying. It was quiet at first, her breath catching every few seconds. The sound came through the ceiling the way sound comes through cheap apartment floors, close enough to feel rude. I hit the ceiling with the end of a broom. "Hey!" And then the crying stopped. For maybe 10 seconds the house held still. And then something knocked back. Once, right over my head. I packed a bag and drove into town. I spent the night in my truck behind a gas station, heater running until the fuel light came on. In the morning I went back. Daylight makes cowards into investigators. I searched every inch of that house. I pushed on the ceiling panels and checked closets, opened vents and crawled under the kitchen sink. I pulled insulation from the laundry room wall until my hands itched. Absolutely fucking nothing. There was no way up. There wasn't even a room up. The roof from outside and the ceiling from inside didn't allow for anything larger than wiring and dust. So I called a contractor. His name was Mike Landry. Local guy, thick beard, quiet guy. He came out that afternoon. Walked the house, measured the roof pitch, tapped ceilings with the handle of a screwdriver. "No second floor here," he said. "I know." "No attic either. Just a shallow roof void. You ever think maybe squirrels?" "Hey, can squirrels drag furniture?" He looked at me. "No." He cut a small inspection hole in the laundry room ceiling and fed a camera through. We both watched the little screen. All there was fiberglass insulation, rafters, black mouse poop, dust, and no floorboards. No open space. No chair. No woman crying, and no hidden room. So Landry pulled the camera back. "You live alone?" "Yeah." He glanced towards the bedroom. "You written from Rusk?" "Yeah." That was the first time his face changed. "You know?" "Everyone knows Rusk." "Well, what does that mean?" "It means don't pay cash." He backed his tools quickly after that. At the door he said, "You hear anything else, you call someone else and not me." "Like who?" He looked past me into the house. "Anyone willing to believe you." That night I drank half a bottle of cheap whiskey. Decided I was done being afraid of a ceiling. I put my phone on record in the bedroom and sat in the living room with the lights off. And at 2:10, the footsteps started again. This time they began above the kitchen. Step, step, pause, and then another step. Then a man's voice said, "She's awake." I stopped breathing. Another voice answered, "Keep her away from the stairs." The voices were above me now, close enough that I could hear one of them breathing through his nose. There were 2 men and a woman. The woman was crying again, but now she sounded angry too. Something crashed above the hallway, and then a muffled shout. I fucking stood up so fast the whiskey bottle tipped over. "There is no upstairs," I said out loud. The house went silent. Then the woman screamed my actual name. "Evan!" I froze instantly. My name actually is Evan Cole. Nobody in that town knew except Rusk, and I had never met the woman upstairs because there was no upstairs. She screamed again. Evan? Evan, don't let them open it. The square rug in the bedroom shifted. Just a little, but it still shifted. I saw it from the living room and through the open door. One corner lifted, and then settled. The footsteps above me turned into running. Men shouting now, and the woman was crying out. Then a massive impact hit the ceiling hard enough to rain dust all over the room. I ran outside barefoot into the snow. The house looked calm from the yard. No second floor, no lights in the roof. No movement and no screaming. It was just one small farmhouse sitting under a dead winter moon. I slept in the truck again. In the morning, I went to the town library. Small towns keep their rotted newspaper archives. The librarian was a woman named Helen, probably in her late 60s. Silver hair and glasses on a chain. She helped me look through the old property records after I told her where I was staying. When I said Russ Farmhouse, she stopped typing. You're in the Bell place, she said. Russ owns it? Now he does. She got very, very quiet. The Bell family had lived there through the 80s. Husband and wife with no children. The husband was Thomas Bell. He ran the feed store and his wife Clara worked at the courthouse. In February of 91, they both vanished. No bodies, no charges, and no evidence. The official story was that they left town after Thomas got into debt. The rumor was way, way different. People heard fighting in the house for weeks. And then one night during a huge snowstorm, neighbors reported the screams. By the time police came, the house was completely empty. Strangest part was in the follow-up article. Them search crews found the furniture from the living room stacked in the bedroom. And guess where? Right on top of the square rug. I read the sentence 3 times. Helen watched me. There used to be stairs, she said. I looked up. What? Inside the bedroom there was a trapdoor under the rug. Went down to a cellar. Well, I checked the place and there's no basement. She hesitated for a moment. Well, my husband was volunteer fire back then. He said they opened that trapdoor once. And? He immediately came home and burned his clothes in the yard. My throat went tight. What was down there? He wouldn't tell me. He only said the stairs didn't go down. I drove back to the farmhouse in daylight. Snow was falling by then, soft and steady. The world had gotten quiet in that way it only does before real weather. I stood in the bedroom doorway and looked at the rug. I moved the bed first and then the dresser. Then I grabbed one corner of the rug and just pulled. It didn't want to move. Sounds really stupid, but it's true. That rug felt stuck to the floor, held by weight from below. So I pulled bloody harder. Thread snapped and dust lifted in a gray sheet. Underneath was a square outline in the floorboards. A hatch. No handle though. It was just old planks cut perfectly into a 4-foot square. The boards were strangely warm. I got a crowbar from my truck. First time I wedged it into the seam, something upstairs moved. It wasn't above me this time. It was behind me. I turned around, and at the bedroom doorway stood a woman in a blue nightgown. Clara Bell. I knew it immediately from the old newspaper photo. She looked almost normal, except her body had the flatness of a reflection, almost like she was standing in the room through glass. Her face was very pale. Her hair hung wet around her cheeks. Do not open it, she said. I immediately dropped the crowbar. My legs went weak. She stepped into the room and flickered like a bad reception. They told him it would give us more space, she said. A new room. A better room. That's how it starts. Who told him? She looked at the ceiling. The footsteps began above us again, slow and waiting. Men from the country, she whispered. Men from the church. Men who knew the old houses. They said some doors make room where there shouldn't be any. I backed towards the wall. What happened to you? Her mouth started to tremble. Thomas opened it. Above us right then, a man laughed softly. Clara looked at me with grief so raw it felt alive. He thought the stairs led down. The hatch knocked. Once from beneath the floor. Then the same knock answered from the ceiling. The room began to actually tilt. I grabbed the bloody door frame. Clara faded and then sharpened again. It folds the house, she said. Down becomes up. Inside becomes above. Once it knows your name, it builds a room just for you. The hatch knocked again. This time my father's voice came from under the floor. Evan? My father was alive, living in Burlington. Annoying as hell and very much breathing though. That actually scared me more. The voice sounded absolutely fucking perfect. Evan, help me with this. I started crying, without even meaning to. Clara says it uses what will make you open. And then the ceiling creaked. A chair dragged above us. The woman upstairs began sobbing again, and only now I understood. It wasn't Clara. It was actually me. Hearing my own future grief before it had a mouth. I grabbed the rug and threw it back over the hatch. Then the knocking stopped. Clara closed her eyes like someone had taken a hand off her throat. Leave before dark, she said. I didn't pack properly at all. I threw clothes into bags, left dishes in the sink, left food in the fridge, left half my life in boxes. I loaded the truck while snow thickened around the house. And just before I left, Russ pulled into the driveway. Parked right behind me, blocking the way out. For the first time since I met him, he looked scared as shit. You move that rug, he said. I'm fucking leaving. You spoke to her? I said nothing. His face tightened. You stupid bastard. I walked toward him with my keys in my fist. Move your truck. You don't understand what that house is. I understand enough. No, he said, you don't. That house keeps things from spreading. Then the farmhouse groaned behind us. Russ looked past me. The roofline had changed. Just slightly. From the road you might miss it. A little lift in the center. A steeper pitch. Like the house had taken a breath and held it. Well, there's no stopping it now, Russ whispered. The bedroom window was ink dark. Then a light turned on just behind it. There had never been a bedroom window on that side. The woman in the blue nightgown stood there, just looking out. Beside her stood a man, tall and broad, face blurred by the glass. Then another shape moved behind them. Me. I saw myself in the upstairs window of a house that had no upstairs. Same coat and beard. Same stunned, stupid face. My other self pressed one hand against the glass, his mouth open. Even through the snow and engine noise, I heard him. Evan? Evan, don't leave me up here. Russ grabbed my shoulder. Do not answer him. I shoved him away and got in my truck and drove straight across the ditch to get around his vehicle. Snow exploded over the windshield. The truck fishtailed onto the road and I didn't slow down until the farmhouse vanished behind the trees. I went to a motel 2 towns over. Made sure to get the top floor. No carpet rug either. I blocked Russ' number and told myself I'd call someone in the morning. Police, fire, ministry, anyone. It lasted 1 hour. Then the motel room ceiling started creaking. One slow step crossed above my bed. I sat up. There was another step and then another. I ran into the hall. My room was on the top floor and above me was roof. There was nothing else. The night clerk came up and checked the attic access. It was locked from our side and packed with blown insulation. No footprints, no animals, no open panels. He asked if I had actually been boozing. Ha! I laughed in his face. When he left, I sat on the bathroom floor until dawn with the shower running, just to hear something that I actually understood. At 6:12 in the morning, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, but a photo came through. It showed the farmhouse bedroom, totally empty. The square rug rolled neatly against the wall. The hatch was open. Stairs were rising up out of the darkness, and then a second message followed. It was no words, it was just an audio file. I fucking shouldn't have played it. I know that now. At first it was just a little bit of static, then it was my own voice. Close to the microphone, whispering like I didn't want anyone above to hear me. I found where the stairs end, and then a long pause. Breathing. Then I said they don't lead to another room. Something knocked beside me. It wasn't from my phone, but it was from the bathroom floor. I looked down immediately. The tile had a square outline in it, 4 feet by 4 feet. It was warm under my hand. The audio just kept playing. My voice started crying. They lead to the place where every ceiling is hiding. The square in the tile lifted a little. Darkness began to show around the edges. And from somewhere above the motel room, Clarabelle whispered. He answered himself. Then the hatch opened from below, and the stairs came up. Thanks for listening.